Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Sawcruhteez Streamz, and I am your host, Sawcruhteez, coming at you just a few hours later, a few hours after the last show, which was recorded late last night, but there has been some price movement, so that will give us some to talk about, but being that we had a long show last night that went in depth about a number of things. I don't think there will be too much more to cover today. Definitely planning on keeping this under 30 minutes. I think it'll just be a very quick look at Bitcoin and then maybe some alts as well. Okay, so yesterday we were looking at these candles kind of in here, and I was looking for a Bill Williams fractal to print above this candle if this was able to stay below this peak, and sure enough, that is what happened, and we did get a very nice reversal off of that 5-candle pattern. Again, the Bill Williams fractals can be just very, very powerful as a short, medium, or even long-term reversal, depending on what time frame you're looking at. So we do see that if we had the up fractals on the chart, we see that we did get a fractal print above that candle. And basically, as soon as that happened, we did get a pretty good reaction to the downside, kind of similar to what we saw back in here in terms of fractal printed after this candle closed, and then you got a nice reaction shortly thereafter. And I didn't see, I'm glad we threw on the Williams fractals, because I didn't notice a new one has printed right here. So that does show us kind of the range that we're in. You can see that this should be support, and this should be resistance. Okay. So this is what will kind of happen when you're stuck in a range, is that you can get some fractals very close to each other, and it will be very important once one of these breaks. Then it will be very, very important. That is where the next move should occur, is basically once we are able to break out of this range here that's at 10,479 down to 98.91. And there isn't much room left to continue consolidating. Right now we really are forming a coil kind of inside the symmetrical triangle, which is strongly suggesting that a large amount of volatility is on the horizon, one way or the other. So basically, we will look at what may be a smaller symmetrical triangle inside of the larger symmetrical triangle. And let's do it like that. And move that up to there. Okay, so here we see that there just isn't a whole lot of room left to continue coiling. Basically, this is kind of the highest I would expect us to get on this move here. And then if we come back down, maybe we can have one more little coil there, and then I would be expecting a move to the downside. This is what I would be expecting, basically. Maybe even change that a little bit due to horizontal resistance. So I am short, and I am expecting this to break to the downside, and I do want to see this horizontal hold as resistance. Potentially something along those lines. where we just kind of coil a little bit more. Anything beyond this, we would basically be coming through the apex, and at that point the coil would just have to make a move one way or the other as far as I'm concerned. So let's look at where that apex would be. Let's extend that on out. So I'm going to say August 27th at 12 would be, we've got to make a move by then. We could continue consolidating for maybe 2 more days, maybe through like a low volume weekend, and then Monday break this one way or the other. And I, again, am very much expecting it to break to the downside. I'm giving it about 75%, which is basically the highest probability that I will have, given some 80%. That's, I can't remember last time I was that confident about any market. So this is looking to me like just another little weak move off of support. Each time we've tested this area of support, we have basically gotten a smaller bounce, kind of showing that support is getting exhausted, and the resistance continues to move down in a significant fashion with these lower highs. This is a much lower high in relation to how this is barely a higher low, but this is a much lower high. So that is something that I pay close attention to. And again, it looks like just we're getting a number of patterns which are ready to confirm one way or the other. So let's go ahead and put this guy on, make it red. How about purple? Okay. Something along these lines here. Okay. So if we are able to break this smaller triangle to the upside, then I would be expecting another lower high. We've got lower, high, lower, high, lower, high. If we can break this and come back up here, it would be in a very good position to break to the upside. Because I mean, if it does get back up here, then these moving averages are going to have a very hard time staying bearish, especially if it spends any time up here. If it's there for 8 hours or so, then that wouldn't be an issue. But if it's up here for a day, then the market is really going to start to posture itself in a way that would look like it's ready to break to the upside. But as it stands, I am feeling pretty confident about my position, and this is action that I would absolutely expect around a big area of support. And this 10,000 has been huge support. Anytime the price has dipped below 10,000, it has failed to stay there for very long at all. Basically, anytime it's dropped below 10,000, it's been a great buying opportunity over the last couple months, but each time it has bounced a little less. And that tells me that support is getting eaten away at. Every time you come down to test support and fail to really take off and create new local highs, then that support is really going to have trouble holding on. Think about a descending triangle and what that illustrates. Basically, that illustrates the same thing, but a lot cleaner in terms of if you are coming down like up. Get that out of there if I can. Okay, so you like come down, you hit a big area of support, you get a nice bounce, come back down, area of support, nice bounce, come back down, And each time you come back down off of lower highs, you exhaust this support until eventually it breaks to the downside. At least that happens a very high percentage of the time. I think it's close to 80%. Check out the pattern site, Thomas Bulkowski. While we're at it, we might as well just go on over there. And that's basically completely irrelevant because the pattern is not in a descending triangle right now as far as I can tell. But I do want to show you guys this website, which is a great resource. So we might as well just go ahead and take a look because I couldn't remember the strike rate. So here we see Bulkowski's pattern site. It's the pattern site. Right there, and then it will give you some statistics in terms of this. We've got 55 patterns. One is the best. This is number 9. And then where is the strike rate? Percentage meeting price target for up down breakout. So if it breaks down 50% of the time, it meets the target. How often average rise, decline, break even failure rate. I'm looking for how often it breaks to the downside. Okay, here we go. Nope, that's volume. Recede 73% of the time. Son of a gun. Can't believe I can't find this. This is a pain in the neck. Oh well. Big waste of time. So be it. So this is kind of what we're getting with the 10,000 price level. Sure, we are getting higher lows, but that is, to me, less important than how severe these lower highs are coming off of this 10,000 area of support. And if that does, if price falls below 10,000 and then resists 10,000 on a throwback, now the market is really going to be ready to move downwards. If support holds strong, if people just refuse to let it go back down to 4 figures for very long, then that would be a very, very bullish indeed. Because with how the market is ready for a big move, if that comes to the upside, I would be definitely expecting a retest of all-time highs. So time to be paying very close attention, but also time to be very aware of both sides of the market so that you don't kind of get caught off guard if that big move comes and it goes in the opposite direction than was expected. Okay, I'll go ahead and throw on the SAR. We did break down that SAR on the 4-hour with this candle. So now these holding as resistance is definitely what I'd want to see in line with this trend line. We've got big confluence of resistance right here. 50 EMA, SAR, trend line, 200 EMA. So as long as we're under 10,400, I am remaining confident in my position. If we do get back above 10,400, I am going to be reevaluating. Let's go ahead and throw on the daily. These SARs have remained bearish for a little while now. This 50 EMA on the daily has started to act as clean resistance. We see that that is definitely an important area of resistance. So add to that confluence and of resistance that we pointed out on the 4-hour, and then watch for a bearish engulfing candle to close on the daily. You only need to engulf the body, not the wick. So if this closes below 10,109, then that would be a bearish engulfing candle on the daily. Okay, anything else that we want to look at? Let's throw on that ADX. I want to see how it's looking on the 4-hour. Notice the RSI is bearish under 50. Notice that the negative DI is above the plus DI on the daily, but we do not have the ADX above 20. So watching for this to break above 20 as a major boundary line is getting broken will definitely be something to pay attention to. And that 4-hour is threatening to cross back below 20. So definitely keeping an eye on that. I was kind of surprised that it continued trending up throughout this action because it was indicating a bear trend. And I would expect this to turn over when this moves against the trend and is kind of stuck in a range. So that was a little peculiar, and here we'll watch. If this does find support above 20, that would suggest that this thing is ready to break down maybe a little bit sooner than the 2-day period that I was originally looking at. If this does roll up at 20, that would suggest that we are ready to go ahead and make that move. The RSI on the 4-hour is bearish as well, under 50. And something that I like to do, and this is actually very pertinent right now, is if the price is in a pattern, look at the RSI and see if it's in a pattern, because often the RSI will break out of that pattern before the price does, and I have found that to be a very powerful leading indicator. So keep an eye on the potential RSI breaking down here before the price breaks this guy down. Definitely pay a close attention to that. That can be a very good leading indicator, and being that it is below 50, that would suggest that the RSI is most probable to break down, but you know, that's just probability. Anything could happen. So let's look at, haven't looked at the 3-day in a while. Okay. Nope. Okay, interesting. So definitely seeing that pretty clear symmetrical triangle here as well. The 3-day has been wicking off of these boundaries very cleanly every time. Let's see what else we may be able to notice. The 3-day ADX is strongly suggesting that we could range for longer, being that if it crosses below 0 with these DIs very close to each other, that's a good indication of a continued range. So potentially we would do pretty much the last thing that I'd want, and that's just continue to consolidate in the bigger triangle for a lot longer, maybe a couple more weeks. So definitely watching that ADX on the 3-day. And I don't think there is much else we need to look at on the price of Bitcoin. So going ahead and pulling up Litecoin. Not much has changed, but definitely keeping my eye on this incoming death cross. So you see we do come down below the bullish moving averages, but it's really had trouble moving too far below. It's consolidated while these moving averages has gotten the chance to compress and potentially cross over. So if we do get this cross right here, this wouldn't be a pull up and into a death cross, but it still would be a good sell signal as far as I'm concerned, because the price isn't too far overextended. This isn't too far. This is very, very reasonable for me. And seeing like a breakdown, consolidation while the moving averages get a chance to cross, that is definitely a very reasonable spot to enter. If we were like down here, that would make it a lot more tricky. But as it stands right here, I would be very comfortable with that. Okay, looks like it might be coming in a little sooner on ETH than Litecoin. That is ready. This next few days, that thing is ready to go ahead and give us a cross. And man, it's just amazing that these alts are getting ready to cross, and Bitcoin, it hasn't even come close to testing its 200-day moving average. Like, it's just amazing how much weaker the alts have been throughout this whole market. Notice we haven't even tested this 200 EMA on Bitcoin, and alts are not only had tested them, but are now breaking it down and primed for a death cross. So that tells me that some good trades could be very much on the table over the next couple weeks or months. And what I like to do is, if I can find a position where I'm betting with the trend and also hedging myself, that's a really, really good opportunity. So consider the idea of, let's say Bitcoin does break down 10,000 and dips to 75, 8 grand or so, and it looks like a great buying opportunity. How about buying Bitcoin and then hedging with a short on like ETH versus BTC or LTC versus BTC? If the USD pairs are in like bear markets according to the 250-day moving averages, and Bitcoin is still in a very bullish market according to all of the medium and long-term indicators, then Bitcoin should really smash the alts in terms of the alts versus Bitcoin. If Bitcoin can continue a bull market and the alts enter a bear market at the same time, that's what this is showing. I mean, if we get a 50 and 200-day moving average cross on these alts, that will signify a bear market. So if the alts versus USD are in a bear market and Bitcoin versus USD is in a bull market, then alts against Bitcoin should just get destroyed. And that is what we've been seeing. Basically, these alts, Ethereum is one that I have been following closest. It's my favorite kind of asset to trade. It's just so darn technical. You get just trend line after trend line after trend line, and whenever it breaks, you often get these beautiful throwbacks and then big moves. So definitely love trading ETH due to how nicely it respects the rules of technical analysis. And we noticed that when this thing broke down the horizontal, it has been moving down pretty quickly. And I mean, just look at this chart since the beginning of 2018. I mean, this thing, how much value has it already lost? Come on. There we go. So from the peak, there might have even been a higher high before, I can't remember. But from this beginning of 2018, Ethereum versus Bitcoin is down 85%. And it looks like it could be in for another move in that order. Let's get a longer term chart. Yeah, there was even another peak there. So let's just go ahead and really rub the ETH maximalist face in it. So 88% down from all-time high. And the target I have 0.008 right here. And I'm probably will even revise that to a lower target if we do get there. But that's basically where I'm hoping to cover my shorts, is down in this area. So let's just get an idea of how much more of a sell-off that would be from here. That would be another 57% for a total of about, that's not telling us, and it really doesn't matter too much, but definitely going to be paying close attention. And what we were seeing from the ETH USD coming up on a death cross, while Bitcoin is still very, very much in a medium and long-term bull market, suggesting that the alts should be in deep trouble against Bitcoin. And this chart is definitely agreeing. We are now consolidating potential bear flag. It's a little bit funky, but it sure would qualify as far as I'm concerned. And I have been definitely selling these things on the way down, and will be considering doing it again, because like I said, this chart, when it breaks down boundaries, I mean, it just really moves, and it will often reach price targets. So let's see, if we had from here to here, we would have measured something like that, just reached that target like perfectly. If we had from here to here, we would do something like that. So the next target, if this thing does break down this guy, would be right here at 0.014. And then we would just keep going on down the list, measuring moves and expecting those targets to get reached and consolidation to follow, and then another move to the downside. So when you see a market really moving, this is often how it will do it, where it really doesn't even have a counter trend bounce. It just simply consolidates into a bearish pattern and then breaks down further. So definitely loving what I am seeing out of the altcoins, especially in relation to Bitcoin. And man, just look at how nice of signals, how nice this 200 EMA has been holding as resistance. That is just beautiful. If you've been selling those, you sure did good. And then notice what happened when it got a death cross with the 50 and 200 day EMAs. That led to a significant move. Last thing that I like looking at here is how we're kind of seeing an upside down hyperwave, which is really neat. These accelerating trend lines are basically, like a parabola or a bubble market, in terms of if it's going to the upside, you've got that nice bubble to the upside, whereas when this happens in the other direction, it's kind of like the opposite, obviously, and definitely suggests that this thing should continue moving down in a big way. I'm actually a little bit bummed to see that it did break out of this trend line. So that actually could be suggesting that a potential, finally, a counter trend move will be coming, since we did break this trend line, and we've spent some time away from there. We kind of threw back and made this higher low. So potentially this is ready for a counter trend kind of correction, but it sure doesn't look like it's seeing ETH USD ready to really crumble. So it'll be interesting to see. One other thing that I noticed recently that I wanted to pull up, I think XRP already got its death cross. Let's check it out. Yep. So take a look at XRP. This thing could be really ready to make a big move to the downside. It's still above. Oh man, this is interesting. So notice you break down the EMAs, consolidate into a bearish pennant as you get the death cross, and now that has led to potential major breakdown. Wow, I'm glad we looked at this. So let's see. Looks like there's a couple very important areas of support. Right here, and then right here. Man, if this thing breaks down, it will be ready to really crumble, and that would be about the best thing that I could ask for. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing a market that really tried to find a bottom, but sure doesn't look like it did. This action here is very indicative of a bottom. You find horizontal support, and then you just go sideways for so long that everybody just kind of forgets what's going on. And once this happened, I absolutely was longing this, and can't remember if I got out break even or lost a little bit. I think it was a break even trade. So right here we see something along these lines. Let's get this guy out, you know. Okay. Okay. So that is like just pretty ideal for a bottom in a market, as far as I'm concerned. You get this cupping bottom as resistance moves down, but it is overwhelmed at a certain price point. So you do have this descending triangle action here, right in here. That's definitely a descending triangle, but it never confirmed. It never broke down to the downside. Instead, what happened was support stayed strong, and you kind of turn the corner right here. And when that happened, you got a beautiful, well, at least in real time, what looks like just a beautiful buy signal right here, with the price pulling back and into a golden cross after breaking through 37 cents horizontal resistance, and then forming this very bullish looking consolidation pattern. So right in here, I mean, this thing looked like it was absolutely ready to take off, and then it just didn't. It crumbled. Like this is huge. If XRP breaks down this final area of support at 25 cents, then where would the next area be? It looks like it will try to find some support around 14 cents, but I would be very confident that it wouldn't do so, because this thing has been coiled so tightly. The longer you consolidate a volatile market, the bigger the next move is expected to be. So this has been consolidated for as long as any crypto market basically consolidates. This has been in this range for a very long time. So the next move, if we break this to the downside, 25-cent support, then there would be support waiting here at 15 cents, but I would absolutely not expect that to hold. That just wouldn't be a big enough move to follow this huge consolidation. Think of all the people that have been buying here at 25 to 28 cents. If this breaks down, they're all going to turn into huge, there'll be huge selling pressure, and that price could get away from those guys very, very quickly. So I would really be looking like, I mean, all the way down in here under 5 cents. That would be incredible. That would just be absolutely amazing. So we'll be watching that closely. Let's see if there's any sort of trend line that may be able to be drawn in. It doesn't really look like it. Not as far as I can tell. Nothing looks too good. So let's see if there's anything else to cover today. Let's just sum up my thoughts on Bitcoin, because that probably was a little bit confusing. There are some basically things that I just would like to clarify really quickly in terms of the 3-day chart. Makes it look like this action is very probable due to the ADX getting ready to cross below 20. However, I am hopeful that that doesn't happen and that we do break down this area of support because we do have this head, shoulder, shoulder, and then inside a head, shoulder, shoulder. So it does look like this thing is ready to break down in the next 24 to 48 hours. If that happens, then the ADX on the 3-day will turn up and show that the market is ready to trend. If we don't break down this area of support in the next 24 to 48 hours, then this would be what I'm expecting the most. So I'm given breaking down support in the next 24 to 48 hours the most likely, but if this does break this trend line to the upside, then I would expect the ADX on the 3-day to cross below 20, and that would tell me that prolonged consolidation is most likely, and it would be very interesting actually if we can do that and keep controlling, keep the price above 10,000 as the death cross comes in on the altcoins. That would be even more dangerous for the alts versus USD, the alts versus BTC, as far as I can tell. So that is really everything that I wanted to cover today. We've got a market that is coiling very tight and showing bearish patterns inside of bearish patterns, which is following a bearish cross with the 50 and 200 EMAs. We also just broke down the parabolic SAR on the 4-hour chart. Daily is threatening a bearish engulfing candle. So definitely watch out. If this area does break, that would potentially be an entry that I wouldn't be taking myself because I'm already in at a better price. But for those who are watching this and wondering what to do, you've got to take that responsibility for yourself. But just look at how clean this boundary is, and if we break it down, then a significant reaction should be expected, and therefore the risk reward on entering around here would absolutely make a lot of sense. And then you use this area of resistance at 10,400 as the stop loss. If it does break down this boundary with like a close below 98.76, and then it retraces back above this 10,400. That would be highly suggesting that it was a fake breakdown, and that's why a stop loss right there would make a lot of sense. And the risk reward, that'd be about a 5% risk, and I would think I'm expecting a 20% move or so to follow if we do confirm these head and shoulders and break the symmetrical triangle to the downside. So that would be about 4-to-1 risk reward ratio. So definitely something that I would be interested in if I wasn't already short from a little bit better price. So with all of that being said, go off of screen share, and I want to thank you guys for all of the kind words and support. It really is neat to see the comments and all the kind words that you guys have been sending, both in comments and in messages. That really does mean the world to me. You guys are why I'm doing this. If nobody was finding any value out of this, then there would be no reason for me to continue. But as long as people are really enjoying what I'm doing, then I am very excited to continue coming to you guys with the best technical analysis that I know how to bring. So thank you guys again very much. Today is Saturday. Just a quick update. I will be looking at the weekly candle close tomorrow at that will be 8 o'clock Eastern time, and it will take a couple hours to get that uploaded, so it will be pretty late. Just so you guys are aware, I will be getting that together, and in the meantime, let's pay close attention to these charts and wait for a move either back above 10,400 or below that boundary of the head and shoulders and that symmetrical triangle. All right, have a good one.